Hello everyone, trust you are doing well. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and then in this video we're going to be looking at week 3 of our programming with C++ series. Right. This video is going to be divided into two parts due to the length of the things we are going to be looking at. Right. So basically in this video we are going to be looking at, that's in week 3. Week 3's objective is expressions and then statements in C++, where we are going to be looking at the types of expressions, and then if conditions, switch conditions, and we'll be looking at loops. But then we'll be looking at loops in the part 2 of this video. Alright, so let's begin. So expressions and statements in C++. First of all, what is an expression, or what are expressions? So an expression is basically combination of literals, variables, operators, and then function calls that can be evaluated to produce a value. Right. So let's look at this. For example, in mathematics, we when we say 2 plus 2 is equal to this, we are talking about expression, right? And we said expressions, they are evaluated to produce a value. So 2 plus 2 is evaluated, and then we get 4, which is the value. Right. In C++, we have um, the addition expression, the assignment expression, function call expression. All right, we have the a plus b, we have x equal to 10, and then when you are calling a function, yeah, that's also an expression, right? And then basically expressions are um, they are classified into various types, right? We have the arithmetic expression, which deals with the basic operations we know of: addition, multiplication, division, and the rest, right? We have logical expression, which deals with the logic, that's the end or no, and then the rest. And we have relational expressions, which is more of comparison of variables or values, right? So for example, x is less than y, it's a relational expression. And we have assignment, you assigning a value to a variable, right? So next thing is statements. What are statements in programming? A statement is like a complete instruction that causes the program to perform an action, right? So for instance, when we say x is equal to y plus 5, it's an expression statement, right? In the sense that it's it's a complete instruction telling the computer that it should assign y plus 5, which is an expression, to the variable x, right? And then we have declaration statement, have compound statement. Yes, compound statement is like a block of code enclosed in parentheses. So for instance, in this int main function, we see that we have these two curly brackets, right? The line of codes in the two curly brackets are what we call compound statements, and then the last one, control statement, which helps us direct the flow of the program, right? We are going to be looking at control statements from here, right? So let's dive in. Control structures or control statements in C++, they are tools, or they are what help us to alter the flow of execution in the program, right? And then there are three types, but then we are going to be looking at one type in this video. Then the rest of the two types will be dealt with in the part 2 of this video. So yeah, the first type is conditional statement, the second type is looping statement, and the last one is jump statements. So conditional statements, right, basically they are used to make decisions based on conditions, right? And then under conditional statements we have several types, right? The first type is the if statement. The if statement. I've been speaking a lot. Let's start some practical. So the if statement um is used to perform an action based on a condition, right? So this is how the syntax is like. So let's first of all declare a variable with the name age and give it 18, right? Now we want to write a program such that it's going to display a, a certain text based on the condition we give it with regards to the age. So we are going to say that if the age is greater than or equal to 18, or if the age is 18 or above, then it should display to the user that yeah, you are an adult, right? So let's do that. So if, then you bring your bracket, then in between your bracket is where the condition goes. So the condition is what? The condition is that age should be equal to or greater than 18, right? Then you bring your parenthesis, and then in between your parenthesis is where your action or whatever task you want the computer to perform based on the condition met is going to be. So we want the computer to display this. So you are old enough to vote, right? And then we do an end line. Okay, so let's run it. Okay, so yeah, there's a syntax error here, which is this. It's supposed to be greater than or equal to, not the other way around. So let's take note. Greater than, equal to. Greater than before the equal to, not the other way around. Yeah, so as we can see here, it says that you are old enough to vote. You are old enough to vote. That's because our age is equal to 18, right? Now, using just the if condition has its limitations. What do I mean by that? If I put in another value, let's say 10, right, and then I run it, this is what I'm going to get. Yes, I'm going to get nothing, right? Because the computer doesn't know what else to do if the condition is not met. We haven't told it to do, so it's going to do nothing, right? So another way to prevent this, still using just if condition, is to add another if statement saying that if the age is less than 18, right, should display you are not old enough to vote, right? Now let's run this again. Good. So we see that it's saying you are not old enough to vote. That's because the first condition was not met, so it checks the other line of code and checks the condition there, and then the condition here is met, so it's going to do what is over here, right? Now that's one way of going about it. Another way of going about it is you using the if else statement, right? So if else, we have if and then we have else. Now the else is use how do I put it, the else of the if else, that's the, or it contains the opposite of the condition in the if statement. What do I mean by that? So as we can see over here, we have these two if statements, right? Now we are going to replace this statement with else, right? So what it's going to do is that if this condition is not met, it's going to do the else, like it's going to check else, right? And then this line of code already, or this place is already doing what the else statement should be doing. But then the else makes our life easy. We don't have to type in any other condition. So when do we use the if else? We use it when we have just basically just two conditions, right? So an example is this case. We are checking if the user is less than 18 or 18 and above, right? So just these two conditions, right? So we are going to replace this if with just else. So if this condition is not met, that is if the age is not greater than or equal to 18, then they should check the else, which is the opposite of the condition, so less than 18, right? I believe it makes sense. Good. The next thing I'll talk about is the else if. So the else if helps you introduce another condition. That is, yeah, it helps you introduce another condition if the first condition is not met. So let's say we are talking about grade now. So to change this to score, right? And let me give myself 95%, right? So we are basically writing a grading system. So we say that if the score is greater than or equal to 90, it should display A, right? Now we cannot use else because it's going to display this whatever is here if the score is less than 90. But then we want to introduce more conditions, so we use else if, right? And then in the else if, we put another condition there. So the score, when the score is now greater than or equal to, let's say, 70, right? Then I'll display what B. I'll display B. Then I introduce another else if. So else if score, just because of time, let's just do this. Else if score is less than or equal to try to 69, yes, then let's just leave it here. So C. So what is going on over here? This is what I'm saying. When I run the program, it's going to check the value of the score, which is 95, and it's going to compare it. Is the score greater than 90 or is it equal to 90? If that's the case, then you are going to display A, which is the case. So when you run it, you are going to get A. And then the other condition is saying that it should check if the score is greater than or equal to 70, right? If it's greater than or equal to 70, it's going to check, and then since the score is 95, the first condition is going to be met, so it's going to display A, not B. When I change this to 70, then I'm going to get B, or a range, any number within the range of 70 and then 89, right? And then this one too, we are saying that when the score is less than or equal to 79, so 79 and then below, right? So you're just going to display C. Okay. Now, the last form of this conditional statement is the switch case, and the switch case is also used for multiple how do you call it, multiple comparison, when you have multiple conditions, right? But then it's mostly used for let's say when you are building a program that has a lot of options for the user to select, right? So for example, you are building a quiz program, right? A quiz program. Yes. So a quiz program. what do we need? We need a question, we need the user to type in his answers, right? But then I'm going to make a multiple choice, so the user will just select whether it's A, B, or C, or D. So let's do that. um okay, so let's display the question. um, 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 what question? Okay, which of these is a programming language, right? Then I'm going to display the options. So A, tree. So because I'm going to be um, typing in the options, let me just copy and paste this, then I'll just change the values. B, C++, C, we have Ga, and then D, we have Hausa, right? So after displaying the question and the option, we give the user the chance to type in something. But then before that, let's declare initialize a variable for the user. So it's going to be a character. It's going to just type one thing. So char user option, right? Go to A. Now take note, the method of which I'm using to name my variable is called the snake case, right? The snake case. We also have the camel case, and then the mixture of the two, right? So I have my variable. Oh, what did I do? I have my variable here. Now I'm going to make the user type it. So cin, then user option, right? So now let's go into the switch case. So this is how it goes: switch, then into bracket. What goes in the bracket is the variable on which we are working with, or on which is going to determine whether the condition is met or not, right? It's going to make sense as we go on, don't worry. So user option, then this is what we type. So case 1, or yeah, let me do this. Case A, right? That is when the user types in A. We are going to display wrong, right? Because that's the wrong answer. Yeah. Then we put a break. We'll look at break under the jump statement in the part 2 of this video. Okay. So case B. Alright. So case B, which is the right answer or the right option. Correct. Right? And then case C, which is wrong. Break. Forgot to add my break in the case B. Let me do that. Then case D, see out. Okay, wrong. All right, let's run this and see. Um, yeah, good. So as you can see, this is our first question. Which of these is a programming language? A. Tree, B. C++, C. Gan, D. Hausa. And our correct answer is B, right? But then let's test the system. Let me put in D, Hausa. Okay, enter. You see, you realize it's the wrong option. So yeah, you are getting wrong. That is case D. Case D says that what you should display wrong. You get. So let me run this again and type in the correct answer. Good. And our correct answer is B. Yeah, we have a correct now. So that is it for the switch case. In this video, we looked at expressions and statements. We looked at conditional statements, right? And then we looked at the if else, and then the else if, and finally the switch case. We said that the if is used for just a single condition. If else, when you have just two options or just two conditions, use the if else. Then you have the else if, that is when you have multiple conditions, right? And then we finally have the switch case or the switch condition. That is when you also have multiple um conditions or multiple options, when you are dealing with multiple choices, yeah, kind of. Then you use a switch. Yeah, so that is it for this video. We'll continue the rest of the week 3 series in part 2 of this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section and then I'll answer them for you. Have a good day. Bye bye.